With that, I would like to introduce our speaker, Oralee O'Bryne. Oralee is the executive director of the Age of Sail Museum, Port Grenville, Nova Scotia. Although her education was in law enforcement and psychology, life took a different path. Oralee started managing the Age of Sail in 2004 when the then manager took ill. Through museum studies, an archival course, various other courses to develop her skills and a strong mentorship, she rose in her new field. Oralee is also currently an executive on the board of the Association for Nova Scotia Museums and the Cumberland Geological Society, a member at large on the Heritage Trust Nova Scotia board, and an interim board member for the Shore Drive Community Association. Her passion for the history of the area and betterment of the community shows in her work. Please give Oralee a warm Shellback welcome. You're on, Oralee.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here to share our story about our history and our little museum with you. I really enjoyed the sea shanties. We have a group of men that come to the museum off and on during the summer and perform, so that's dear to my heart. So I guess we'll jump right in here. Let me figure out if he's got me so I can share my screen with you. Okay, I think.
Yeah, you're sharing and the first slide is up.
All right, just making sure I'm on board here. Okay, well, to understand why our museum exists here in Port Grenville, you have to understand the history of our area. So Cumberland County, the Age of Sail Museum is, I've got a little thing here, there we go. The Age of Sail Museum is located in Cumberland County, Nova Scotia, on a tidal river on the Bay of Fundy. It's a quiet, remote little area that was once home to major shipbuilding industries. That's us down there in the in the riverbed. The Port Grenville sits in the middle of the Parsboro shore, which is a 62-kilometer drive that was once home to thousands and boasted over 20 full-fledged shipyards, not to mention the various pop-up shipyards that the industry gave rise to. Timber was used not only to build ships, but as the major commerce. Now the population of this entire 62-kilometer stretch is slightly over 2,000. Primarily seniors and mainly a retirement area with very little industry. Parsboro was once, is now the largest village on the shore and was one time the largest port of registry for sailing vessels in Nova Scotia, believe it or not. In the peak years during the 1890s, over 16,000 vessels arrived and departed annually from Parsboro. Shipbuilding on the shore began in part to the embargoes placed on Britain from the Napoleonic Wars and the War of 1812. British loyalists were claiming their plots here in Nova Scotia and being tasked to build rough-hewn ships, load them with timber, and return them to England for building purposes. Soon the shore was dotted with shipyards and mills. This photo is Diligent River, which is about 4 kilometers from my home. Cochrane Shipyard in Fox River, the Port Grenville and Fox River yards. You can see in the distance, there's a couple of yards down the shore. This was one of the major shipyards in Parsboro. And this is the Spencer's Island Shipyard, which is, we'll come to later. It has a great history to it. And on the far end of our shore is Advocate Harbor. There were also, of course, many mills. There's the Eatonville Mill, which now is completely deserted. The Apple River Mill, the Ucart Mill, which was in Parsboro, the Shuley Mill. Now Shuley boasts a population of 2. And And this is the Red House Landing, which is where our museum now sits. So the site of our museum sits on what was also once a shipyard and sawmill. This is a shingle mill that was on the property. And this is the last vessel that was actually launched from the property just behind where our museum building sits now. Author and historian Stan Spicer, who was the grandson of a noted sea captain and shipbuilder George Spicer, researched and chronicled much of the history and was a huge contributor to the information available in our museum. I was fortunate enough to have Stan as one of my mentors when I came on at the museum. And that man, he's probably forgotten more than I could ever know about the shipbuilding in the Maritimes. The first recorded vessel built on our shore was in 1816, the Rachel. It was a 91-ton schooner built in Advocate, and the last sailing ship was built in the 1920s. Although known for the most modest turn schooners, the largest vessel built on our shore was the Glooscap, which was built in Spencer's Island, and she was a 1,721-ton full-rigged ship.
Wow.
I'd be remiss to ignore our most famous vessel, which I'm hoping most of you have heard of, the Mary Celeste. It was a brig also built in Spencer's Island in 1861, originally named the Amazon. Though wrongfully labeled a mystery ship, this ill-fated vessel still garners many stories. And this fall, we were fortunate enough to have the archaeologist who discovered the remains of the Mary Celeste in Haiti bring the collection of pieces to us. So this is part of our collection. We're hoping to make a big deal and a grand opening for this exhibit in the spring when we reopen for the year. So as the age of sail died out, several yards in the area remained open to repair and maintain ships. Years were lean and the industry started to die out. In 1942, the Wagstaff and Hatfield shipyard in Port Grenville were awarded the contract to build 12 wooden-hulled minesweepers for the British Admiralty, assuring an economic boon for the area. The Wagstaff and Hatfield shipyard continued their success by turning to the construction of scows, tugs, and fishing vessels. Although shipbuilding along the shore slowly died, the Wagstaff and Hatfield shipyard continued their operations until 1976, when a massive gale did what the economy no longer could and ended the shipbuilding along the shore forever. Only lasting 18 hours, the storm devastated the southwestern shore of Nova Scotia and all along the Bay of Fundy, causing closures and power outages and effectively destroying breakwaters, boats, buildings, and destroying the last shipyard in our area. These are actual photos of the shipyard in Port Grenville after the storm. The only buildings that now remain are the one in the foreground, the roof that you can see, the green one, which is now a cottage, and the one other little building in the previous picture is a cottage as well. Everything else was destroyed.
The lighthouse.
For years, history faded into the background. Time and tide destroyed the remnants of this one great industry. In 1981, a group formed an association for the development of the area, selecting a project for the group, the building of a picnic park, with the possibility of the site in a parcel of land on the west side of the Ratchford River in Wards Brook. The land was owned by Scott's Paper. In 1982, the land was purchased for $1 and volunteers began clearing up the site and students were hired to cut grass and help. Washrooms were built and the site saw some use. In 1988, the group was struggling. Chair John DeLong decided to step down, and my father, Ross Collins, a descendant of sea captains, shipbuilders, and lumbermen, took over the role. By 1989, it was obvious that the struggle with nature, the hay, the rocks, and the bugs was daunting and tiring to the volunteers. Ross often wondered why there was nothing to honor our heritage. And so in 1990, he and a group of equally zealous people decided to build the Heritage Center. In the spring of 1991, the committee really got in motion, writing letters, holding fundraisers, and raising awareness. In 1992, the McLeod family donated the Cochrane Hall, which is an 1854 built former Methodist church. It was also used as a sail loft, a rifle range, and a community hall for many years. And the task of dismantling it and rebuilding it began to take place. So they actually took it apart in pieces and moved it the 2 kilometers down to where our museum sits now and rebuilt it. In July 27th, 1994, the Age of Sail was opened, but we never stopped. In 1997, we built a cafe and a small gift shop that was open to help generate revenue for the society. In 1988, the Port Grenville Lighthouse was which had been removed by the Coast Guards in 1980, taken to Cape Breton to the Coast Guard's college and was being used as their pump house cover, was finally returned to the community and now sits on the end of our property at the Age of Sail. Around that same time, we were offered the donation of an original blacksmith shop that had originally sat at the Wagstaff and Hatfield shipyard. And again, it was taken apart, moved, and rebuilt onto our site. In 1999, the bandsaw shed was added. This 7-foot-tall bandsaw was first used in the Parsboro shipyard and later was bought by the Wagstaff and Hatfield shipyard for the minesweeper contract. We had to build the shed around the saw, and then we rested, at least for a little while. In 2009, 2010, after the donation of a couple of sailing boats, we decided we needed to have a boat shed put them in, so we built that. In the background, discussions had been going on about the need to expand to match our expanding collections and our archives. Grants were sought, fundraising started, but the wheels of change spin slowly, and the loss of 3 of our main contributors to the museum affected the board very deeply, but we persevered. In 2011, the first phase was undertaken in the pouring of the foundation and of the lower level of our building. Rafe's Construction, who had been our original contractors, came on board again as contractors and helped us build this building. It was another year before the upper level was able to be constructed and our wharf walkway was completed. In August of 2012, we were able to officially open the Wind and Wave edition of our museum. The concept to mimic an overturned half model came from the 4 directors that you see on the left of your screen. On the top left is my father, Ross Collins. Beside him is Jack Wagstaff, whose father owned and operated the last shipyard in the region. To the bottom right is Stan Spicer, the author that I mentioned before. And to his left is Sid Hughes, who came from a lumbering family and helped with the building. Unfortunately, all 4 of these men passed away before the official opening of the building. To the right of these men, you'll see their widows did our grand opening. So it was a very special event for all of us in many ways. That's our whoops, I went too fast. That's our common space that is in the lower level of this boat-shaped building and also our archives room. So with the new addition came archives and a meeting room, along with display areas, and exhibitions were arranged more chronologically. We showcase the history of our shore and the communities through 7 display buildings, numerous outdoor exhibits, archives, and a genealogical database with over 54,000 names in it. Here I'm sharing with some of the younger folks the workings of a half model. This is our grandma display, which I'm sure Maura can attest to, can be a little bit taken aback when you first come around the corner and she starts talking to you and telling you the story of her life and what it was like for women during the shipbuilding industry. We have a schoolroom, and as you can see above our schoolroom, we have many ship models. And this is our new building, the Wind and Wave building, which, as you can see, mimics the hull of the ship with the ribs showing. And our displays in here talk a lot about being on board ship, and again, many ship models. And of course, what shipbuilding would be complete without a lot of tools. This is just a small corner of our tool display. We also have a military display where we honor the men and women who served. This picture is actually taken this fall when the lady in the blue coat, who is a historian and does historical reenactments, gifted us with the beautiful outfit of the World War I nursing sister beside me. Charlene is actually from Kingston, so she's not that far away from you folks, and has done a lot of work in Ontario with the museums there as well. She does a wonderful job with her reproductions, and one of our very close neighbors was a nursing sister who was lost on the Landovery Castle in World War I when it was torpedoed by a U-boat. We also, in our work blacksmith shop, we do have a working forge, and we are very happy to say that our blacksmith, who had only been able to come up a couple of times a year, has now moved to our village, and so we are developing some blacksmithing workshops for him to perform and to help people learn one of the dying crafts of the shipbuilding. We also wound up building 2 years ago another shed attached to our large bandsaw shed for this woodworking machine, which is about 7 feet long, and again was used in one of the shipyards in the area. And we also have included a new farm display outside, showing some of the various farming implements that were used in the area as well. We also have a memorial garden, which is where we'll be holding our live nativity this December for the community. And I'm very proud to say that in 2019, for our 25th anniversary, I helped design an Age of Sail tartan representing our history and our heritage. The tartan is made actually in Scotland and was sent to a company in Toronto who made the products for us. We have blankets and scarves. The colors on the tartan represent, of course, the waters of which people from our shore sailed around the world. The green represents the forests and the trees that were used to build the ships and to be the most sought after timbers. And the red to remind us that although it was a glamorous life in some ways, it was also very harsh, and to remember those who did not survive and who perished at sea. So by now, you probably know a lot or a bit about our museum anyways and the history, and probably realize that this is not just a job to me. For me, this is a family legacy and a passion. I'm not sure what the future of the museum is going to be, but I'm sure it's going to keep going. And I can say for one thing that it's very amazing what a small group of dedicated individuals can do when they work together and persevere.
Wow. Thank you, Oralee. Yes, let's give her a round of applause or a